Mr. Marshall, are you okay? You know what that was? That was a mic check. Aren't you glad you came to class on time? This, for what it's worth, this is the last time I'm sitting up here. I think the next time we meet, I'll have had enough shots that I'm relatively safe, and I'll go back down there. But I'm up here just trying to keep distance between us. Printing is here to some extent. What I'm asking the committee to do is just keep some things alive. We're sort of in an odd procedural posture, and so that's where we'll go. But at this point, I would ask the secretary to please call the roll. I'm informed there's a quorum here. The first item on the agenda is House Bill number 95, which basically is a House bill which included, and it is it deals with the State Board of Nursing Home Administrators. In a sense, it's a repealer bill, but one of the provisions in the House bill was a provision that made it difficult for the committee to levy fees on administrators in order to operate, and the committee is very concerned about that. So the proposed strike all in front of you removes that provision. My thought is, with this and with some other things, if we put this on the calendar and leave it there, then the text will be available for everyone to see if there are technical issues with it. But I think we're getting it technically where it needs to be. But that's what the bill does, and that's what the proposed strike all does. Just to get us in the proper procedural motion, Senator Parker moves title sufficient to pass. Senator Parker moves adoption of the amendment, and now the amendments before the committee. Debate, discussion. You ready to vote on the amendment? All in favor say aye. All opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes have it. And now Senator Parker moves title sufficient to pass as amended. All in favor say aye. All opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes have it. The next bill is simply a straightforward repealer bill, which extends the repealer on Harper Grace's law until 2024. Questions? Senator Parker moves title sufficient to pass. All in favor say aye. All opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes have it. House Bill 160 has also a proposed committee substitute. This is the repealer on the State Board of Health. Senator Parker moves title sufficient to pass and moves adoption of the amendment. The amendment brings forward the Certificate of Need code section. If there's a need for that code section, and if things get lost in transition, we will have that section available for us on the floor, and by the time the deadline gets here, we'll see where that stands. There's been a discussion about a proposal to allow the State Department of Health to issue a reg when a controlled substance is changed on the federal list to administratively, in effect, change the enforcement mechanism for Mississippi to coincide with the federal downgrade. What we've done over the years is operating under the theory the feds may or may not know what they're doing about these listings, but we sure enough don't know. We've just copied the federal listing, and there are periods where there's a lag in that. The theory behind this is administratively, the board could, for a limited period of time, confirm to the federal list when we're out of session, which would save the possibility of going for something like a year with our being out of sync. There are issues with that. Time's running out. I was putting the code section in, so at least that would be available for us if we wanted to do it. I think if we're going to do that, we probably need another committee meeting to talk about what we're going to do on the floor. But anyway, that's the purpose of bringing these things forward. Is there a question or debate on the bill? It also keeps the State Board of Health operating. Are you ready to vote? All in favor say aye. All opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes have it. House Bill 196, the Dignity for Incarcerated Women's Act, comes to us from the Corrections Committee. Senator Parker moves title sufficient to pass, moves adoption of the amendment. Basically, this bill, and members can read the text of it as well as I can, but the thrust of the bill, as it was explained to me, is to provide some sort of security and sense of privacy for a woman who's giving birth while incarcerated. And there are examples of a mother not even being able to hold her baby, being shackled, and things such as this during delivery. Certainly, one can imagine some security circumstances where that would be appropriate, but it's pretty hard to imagine them. And that's certainly not the case in the run-of-the-mill situation. So this is simply to allow a woman who is incarcerated to give birth in a dignified manner. At least that's the thrust of the bill as it was explained to me. There's a motion, title sufficient to pass. Questions? Debate? Ready to vote? All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes have it. House Bill 200 deals with remote patient monitoring services. This simply does away with the requirement of 2 previous hospital stays before, I believe the word is telemonitoring is permitted. Senator Parker moves title sufficient to pass. There's debate, discussion. Are you ready to vote? All in favor of title sufficient to pass say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes have it. House Bill 208 deals with the repealer on the licensure law for psychologists. The legislation that's before us conforms to what we were requested to do by the board. I believe it removes or lessens, if I can find it here. It effectively makes a slight reduction in the number of hours that are required to obtain a license. Is there further debate on the bill? Motion's title sufficient to pass. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes have it. House Bill 294 deals with 2 matters. Senator Parker moves title sufficient to pass and moves adoption of the strike all amendment. Last year, we passed legislation with a 1-year repealer about the ability of physicians essentially to monitor a hospice without the necessity of actually seeing the patient, assuming the protocols and everything are lined up. There was much weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth, so we passed this with a one-year repealer. The repealer expires this year. Since it became law, I've had no one anywhere contact me with any problem with existing legislation. The strike all includes the text of another bill which deals with the moratorium on hospices. This is a great example of demand expanding to meet the supply. We had a number of years ago a large number of hospices come into existence. One of the results of that was that the number of people in hospice in Mississippi who were alive after the 6-month period was a very high percentage. There are two theories behind that. One is that they were just getting such excellent care that they continued to live. The other is that perhaps they were inappropriately put into a program when they really did not qualify for it. There are metrics and all that come back to have bad consequences for the state when that happens. So actually the thrust of this bill, and since we put the moratorium on, that situation's been improving. The thrust of this bill is basically to continue the moratorium. But in an effort to deal with particular situation, this does authorize the issuance of 2 new pediatric palliative care hospice licenses. One of them is required to be in the 2nd Congressional District. I am informed that it may or may not be possible for these 2 facilities to be financially viable, but at least in one case there's some folks that want to try. Apparently it means something to the House to have this provision in there. It seems to me in the overall scope of things, this is not a ditch in which to die. So that's, the 2 bills are just combined into one. That's what the amendment does. Debate, discussion?
Question.
Senator Horn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do we know where in the 2nd Congressional District one of these pediatric palliative care facilities would be located?
My understanding is there's some people in Jackson, I do not know who they are, who believe that they can establish such a facility in Jackson. I do not know if that's feasible or not. There are 2 statewide. One is to be located in the 2nd Congressional District, so anyone anywhere in the 2nd Congressional District could apply for that hospice.
Mr. Chairman, do you recall whether the palliative care facility that was authorized over off of Lakeland Drive was pediatric?
I'm not sure that actually is a hospice within the definition of the Act. It may or may not be.
Palliative care facility, but not a hospice.
That's my understanding.
Thank you.
Further debate? Ready to vote? All in favor say aye. All opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes have it. The final item on the agenda is House Bill 874, which deals with vaping, I believe is what these kids call it. These kids. It increases the age to 21, and it also establishes a residence, a registry for these products, much as other tobacco products have such a registry. I didn't realize this, but I'm told that's the case. It's doubly referred to Judiciary B. But the bills before us, Senator Parker moves, title sufficient, do pass. Debate, discussion, Senator Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess my question goes to a bill authored or at least presented by Senator Barr earlier in the session, where we're looking at moving the age of majority to 18. And I guess my concern, and I wonder if members of this committee have a concern, if we're moving a lot of the statute to 18, then we're moving other statute to 21, are we creating any degree of confusion in doing so?
You want me to answer that question?
You or any member of the committee?
Yes.
Mr. Mr. Chairman, I think I can.
But I mean, there is the question, and it's a serious one. And I think there are things one can do at 18 and one can do at 21. There are a lot of arguments about the irony of being able to be drafted into the military at an age when it's illegal for you to drink beer. There are situations, particularly with nicotine, which is an addictive product, in which if one begins using at an early age, one is very likely to continue using. And since we're talking about nicotine right here, I'll just say there's this one thing about tobacco, which I think is different from almost any other substance that I know. And that's not literally true, but it's certainly the most widespread. Most people who use tobacco years after they started wish they had never started using tobacco. That's not true of whiskey. There are people that drink whiskey, and years later they're glad they do. There are those that wish they didn't, but that's not true of marijuana. There are people that start smoking marijuana, and 20, 30 years later, they're glad they do. I'm not saying either one of those is good things or not, but I am saying that it is a singular feature of tobacco usage that 20 years after one starts, the percentage of people that wish they'd never started in the first place is very high. And that to my way of thinking, that makes tobacco different from a lot of other substances we deal with. But meantime, Senator Wiggins actually had a more responsive answer to your question, I think.
Well, I didn't know, or I forgot Senator DeBar was here on the committee, so he may want to answer the question.
The age of majority.
DeBar, is it true? DeBar, is it true that you want to answer the question?
I'll step up, Mr. Chairman. If I may, the age of majority bill, I don't think is coming out of committee on the House side. Even if it were to come out, it excludes alcohol and cigarettes anyways. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That was a shorter answer than mine. Or is there further debate? Are you ready to vote? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes have it. We'll report that to the Judiciary B Committee. Senator Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just have a request, if you would. Would you ask Senator Parker to speak up when he makes his motions? I can barely hear him.
I'm sorry. Would I do what now? Next time we meet, I'm going to be down there amongst you, and it's going to be different. Thank you very much for coming. Thanks for your work. I will say this, in the general area of public health and welfare, I think we're making a lot of progress. Some of it is due more to others than to us, but, I think there's no question but that Child Protection Services and the Department of Human Services are moving in the right direction. I don't know that we can take a lot of credit for that, we've certainly been accommodating and helpful to the folks that are running that. I do believe with our coordinator of mental health that we are really headed in the right direction there. It's going to take a while, but that's something we started. Regarding two scope of practice issues, first of all, we've passed legislation about optometry, which I believe the House is going to concur in. There's a split of opinion as to whether that was a good or a bad thing, but we spent time and dealt with that. We have the issue of nurse practitioners. I did not think and do not think it's appropriate for us to try to get into that this year with the House bill that came to us and all, but I do think that we should spend some time on that this summer. It's clear to me that the existing situation is just not tenable. We've got nurse practitioners who are essentially paying a fee to a doctor to collaborate with them, and there ain't no real-world collaboration going on. So that's the worst of all worlds. I don't know what to do about it. The spectrum of things you could do is this big, but I expect us to meet this summer and look into that and figure out what, if anything, we want to do in that area. So, you know, we get caught up in the routine of the bills that are before us and just housekeeping and all of that. But when you step back, we're making some changes that I think are positive for folks. So thank you for your work, and I'm sure we'll meet again. The motion is to rise and report. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes have it.